In this video, I will be going over how to tie the falconer's knot and things that you should be keeping in mind when tethering your hawk. If you're not involved in falconry, you might wonder why falconers have their own knot. And that's because most of the time we're holding a bird on our hand, which means everything in falconry has been adapted to being able to be done with only one hand. That's why we hold the bird in our non-dominant hand, so it gives our right hand, if you're right-handed like me, free to be able to do everything. That means whilst I'm carrying a bird around, I need to be able to tie a knot and sort out all the equipment with just my one free hand. If you've never tried to tie a knot with just one hand, you might find it a bit tricky. So that's why we've got a specific falconer's knot. And this is part 2 of the How to Train a Hawk series. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Go watch it after this one. Nothing fancy is needed to learn the knot, just some string, something to loop it round, and a bit of patience. If we imagine the bird is on the left hand, we hold the leash with our first two fingers on the right hand. The leash is then crossed under itself, the right thumb is then weaved over the top and then underneath the leash. The thumb is then pulled back to the original position, forming a loop around itself. The wrist is then rotated to bring the fingers back to the right side. The leash held in the fingers is then brought to the top of the loop around the thumb and pressed against the tip of the thumb. Following the thumb down, the leash held in the fingers is pulled through the loop, but not all the way. This forms a new loop, and then the end of the leash is pulled all the way through the new loop. The loose end does not need to be pulled tight, as this will cause issues when untying. The knot is always repeated a second time. A different angle helps to show the rotation of the wrist to bring the leash around to the loop. The key to learning the knot is repetition, just keep practicing. The knot is easily undone. The loose end of the leash is pulled back through the first knot, and then with a small tug, the knot is released. It's also useful to practice the knot for different scenarios. Although it's not something I personally do, it's still very useful to practice tying a leash to a glove as well as a perch. In a future video, I'll be going over how to secure your hawk and how to safely walk with the hawk on the fist. I find a great way to learn how to smoothly tie the knot in preparation for when you have a hawk on the fist is to hold a full glass of water in your left hand.
You should practice the knot until it's muscle memory. Before handling a hawk, it is important that you do not need to be thinking about the knot in order to tie it, as this will take away your focus from the bird.
As well as tying the knot properly, another big aspect of tethering your bird is leash length. Now this is something that's quite personal to a lot of falconers. Every falconer has their own opinion on this. Some falconers like a nice long leash length, and some falconers keep them quite short. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle, but more towards the shorter end. I keep my leash quite short because it minimises the risk of breaking their legs or ankles if the birds start to bay. And this can happen for several different reasons. Many things like wild birds or other animals may spook them, loud noises might spook them, or even if they just see a wild animal that they want to hunt. Now the leather anklets and jesses that we put on the birds will naturally have a little bit of give, and so will the leash, so it doesn't put as much strain on the bird's ankles if they do bait. But it's always important to get the right length of your leash when tethering your bird.
It's never a race when tying the leash. Take your time, especially when first learning. It's better to spend more time on the knot and make sure it's done correctly and that you have the right leash length than to rush in an attempt to keep up with more experienced falconers and risk making a mistake. I like to keep the leash straight in line with the ring to stop the bird twanging if it baits. When tying the knot, I pull the ring higher up on the perch. This is because I'm holding the jesses higher than where they will naturally sit when the bird is on the perch, and the loop around the thumb will be pulled tighter, giving more length to the leash. Again, it's very easy to release the bird by pulling the leash back through its loops. This is why it's important not to pull the knot tight when you are finished. The knot cannot be undone by itself and so doesn't need to be pulled tight like other knots, and you need to be able to undo this easily with one hand.
And that is how to tie the falconer's knot and tether your hawk. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more falconry related content, then please subscribe. There will be more videos coming out in the How to Train a Hawk series, so if you subscribe, you won't miss out on those. That's all for this video, thank you for watching.